Hello, 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 hello. Yes, Chris, I saw that in the comments and said, yes, they sure do. My goodness me. I got something to share with y'all there and what prompted this because I had originally started out with Galatians chapter 4 on how God tells us about us, and we're going to get to that. But God put it on my spirit. Yeah, but you need to make it known that because we cannot ignore our intuition anymore. All right, everyone. So thank you. Yeah, they sure do. They engage in creepy behaviors. And they're the only ones that do that. So that's another way, really, another great way to spot a narcissist. Really. So, yes, let me get the formalities out of the way as the notifications go out. And as you can see, our new hair growth. I have not had a chance yet, Chris, to try that mind body thing for the hair, but I'm going to. Okay, it's just God had me figuring out how we were going to complete some things because it's just a whole new thing that we're doing because we don't have to do things the way we used to. So now we have to kind of figure out, all right, how are we going to get these things done that I want to get done because we need to keep going forward, right? Be not weary in well-doing. So it's like, okay, so remember, be not weary in well-doing, you all, is this week's reminder. And that being said, it is February 13th, 2024, to help y'all put it in perspective. Okay, so this week, okay, this is Tuesday, February 13th of 2024. And so it's the whole week. Remember, Sunday is the first day of the week. Saturday is the last day of the week, right? Okay, so remember that. Look at the calendar, okay? So we want to keep in mind, all right, that is the message. And yeah, it was God's message to me too. I wasn't being weary and well-doing. I was just wondering, okay, well, how are we going to do this? Because I have a lot that we want to get done. I've got schoolwork that will be coming back in, okay, because the proposal has been revised and sent back. So I'm like, all right, how are we gonna do this? And so God had me go back. I'm gonna share that with y'all too, okay? Just another reminder when God has us go back through a part of our spiritual journey, is to pick something up that we need to take with us, a skill, an ability, a reminder, something that we had left behind, and God's like, yeah, but I need you to go back and get that. I am Michelle Dickey, your host for CHA's Truth Seeker Podcast, streaming on the YouTube channel, Narcissism and Cognitive Dissonance, where trauma healing and spiritual growth are front and center while combating radio frequency poisoning for healthier living. Trauma healing and spiritual growth occur with God's wisdom, basic scientific facts, tried and true techniques, and more here and at CHA Academy, BTBW.com. The link to the Academy is listed below for quicker access, and some of you all may need to copy and paste the link to view what CHA Academy, BTBW.com offers to help you level up your trauma healing and spiritual growth. So real quick, for those who are interested, you've got how the trauma bond is formed. You've got the 5P coaching course to help you get better organized in thoughts and action. You also have how to deal with toxic coworkers, that course. And those steps can be applied for how to deal with narcissists in any environment, okay? And then now we've got the how to detox from trauma nutrition course, right? That's available. So I highly encourage y'all to check back frequently because there's more coming, right? And we also got the memberships at the Academy as well. So that's that. And I want to welcome those of you who are joining us on this journey in God's reality, Spiritual Warriors for Christ. It is a growing community of fellow chosen ones where you have a voice, where you belong, and where you can be who you are. Unapologetic, authentic. There you go. All right. So narcissists are the ones who engage in creepy behaviors. They're the only ones that do these things. Because we realize that, a lot of that stuff that they would do would make us feel very uncomfortable, right? That's one of the reasons they do it. But now, as we become more aware, it's like, you know what? We're not going to ignore that God-given intuition. And I'm going to share with you how this came about today. Because, God does not care about the number of followers, likes, whatnot. Okay? He doesn't care about those. He cares more about Bible verse numbers. Okay? That's what he cares more about. But overall, he doesn't care about that. And so there was a follower on my Instagram page, if you will. There was somebody following me. And they sent me a message that only had my name in it. All they said was Michelle. Nothing else. And I was like, that's creepy. I said, I put the phone down and I was like, that is creepy. That's a narc. And so God told me, he said, there you go. He said, need to go and remove that follower and block them. And that's exactly what we did. Because that's creepy. Chosen one, do not engage. We don't do stuff like that. Like, I'm not going to send you an email and just say, Chris, no message, no. That's creepy. And then let's not forget about that creepy stare that they have. The chosen one, we never did that. We never stared at anyone that way. And in fact, we rarely, if ever, stare. You know what I'm saying? It's like we looking at somebody. We're not judging or anything. If they happen to look back, we smile. Whether they smile back or not. Oh, I know. It used to. That would be another creepy thing. Oh, yeah. Is that, okay, we smile at them, and then they might go, that's creepy. That's creepy. I had one do that to me on my walk. I was like, oh, that's creepy. So, y'all, let's drop it in the comments below, some additional creepy behaviors, because this is for educational reasons. We don't ignore that stuff anymore. If it's creepy, then it's creepy. Because we can sense that in the spiritual. I'm like, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. Yep. Yes. Right. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I know. Oh, you're talking about the. Okay, I got you. Yeah. When the time is right. Exactly. I mean, it's on my mind. We're going to get to that exercise because I really want to do it. Because hey, listen, I trust you. It works. So I was like, I'll do that. But in the meantime, and thank you, Chris, that the courses at the Academy are really good. Thank you. And I highly encourage y'all. Chris has left us some great reviews for those courses. So don't forget, when you go to the courses landing page, now mind you, the link below is going to take you to how the trauma bond is formed. You click on all courses. Okay, so I'm getting caught up now in the chat. Okay. Yep, that Cheshire Cat grin. That's another one. Thank you. That it is creepy. It is very creepy, especially when you get one from an aging narcissist, and you can see the gray aura when they open their mouth, and you can see it's like, oh man, that is creepy. It is creepy. And that side eye stare. Oh my gosh, that's another creepy one. Yes, yes, I get that on my walks. It's like, oh man, yeah, that side eye creepy stare. Ugh, yeah, it's like, man. And so, yeah, we don't forget about that. And then the evil eye, that's another creepy thing they do. I get it, y'all, that they don't, they're not aware that they're doing that. Okay, we have to remember that. That's why it gets easier to deal with them when they do that, by not dealing with them, because we understand what God means in June 1 about many corrupt and unaware. They have no idea that they are being controlled by demonic forces. And so that lets us know who they are and whose team they're on, right? They're on Team Devil. But yeah, that side-eye stare, woo! We are very familiar with that one. Absolutely. Man, the list is long, but, well, it's not really that long because it becomes predictable, the creepy behaviors that they engage in. And then let's not forget about stalking. That's creepy, right? The stalking that they do, that's creepy. And then, well, I don't know if I want to call word salad creepy. I mean, it can be. It depends on what it's trying to say. But that word salad really is just designed to try and confuse us. That's all. But yeah, gosh, we can think of a bunch more. Yep. He used to pass creepy notes around the office about Chris. Okay. He used to say that's how the world works, but right. Not how the world works. That's how he works. Oh, they do have that warped sense of reality about how the world works. Oh, that might be how his world works. Okay. But yeah, creepy notes. I'm not surprised. And never forget how many of them used to love sneaking up on us just to watch us jump. That's before we started reducing our sodium intake. Remember something, y'all. Excess salt can and does lead to jumpiness. God revealed that to me the first time I detoxed and was on the blood type diet, because I realized that, when God takes the worldview blinders off, he awakens our subconscious. We can see a lot more around us. And so the narcissist could not sneak up on me anymore because I could sense them or see them coming. But even if I did not see them coming, because low sodium intake and my autonomic nervous system healed, right, at first go round, and I knew that there was nothing to fear, especially when it comes to toddlers and adult body. So yeah, they no longer made me jump if they snuck up on me. And so for those of you who need it, you got that to look forward to where once your body re-regulates, okay, and autonomic nervous system, you get control of it. Once that happens, then they're not going to be able to sneak up on you and scare you anymore. So there's a tip for whoever needs that one. But these narcissists do engage in a lot of creepy behaviors, and they're the only ones who do it. Why is it creepy? Well, because it's evil. They're evil behaviors, just like evil communication, gossip, slander, right? So, yeah, well, that would be, yeah. Creepy behaviors. Absolutely. Right? That they're trying to make excuses for their own behavior. And that's due to cognitive dissonance. Never forget that cognitive dissonance, aka confusion, is what caused all of us for a time to make excuses for other people's behaviors and our own. Because we didn't know anything else at the time. And so all we knew was what the world was telling us. That, they're just having a bad day. No. We now know that, that's who they really are. Because chosen one, I don't care how sucky of a day we've had when we used to have them. Hey, I'm going to tell y'all something. There comes a time where you don't have no more sucky days. We might have some down days where God says, well, take it a little easy today. But it's not going to be a sucky day. Because we no longer let things like that affect us anymore. Once we've got control of ourselves, We've got control of our empathy. We've got control of our emotions, right? That's all we can do. And we stay emotionally regulated. Once that happens, we don't let things of this world or anything from the enemy get to us that would make us think we're having a sucky day. We don't look at things like that anymore. We turn negatives into positive. And so just know that for whoever needs it, you've got that to look forward to. There will be no more sucky days. Because we're with Jesus. We're walking. Yeah, it's Christ who walks through us. And so for a while, before we started changing that thinking, because remember how we think, right? Yeah, that's very, very important, because our thoughts are the spiritual power. So we do want to be mindful, not only what we tell ourselves about ourselves, but also what the world tries to tell us. So if the world tries to tell me something about myself that I know is not true, right, we just don't even let it get in there. For example, when I went to have something checked, and they wanted to try to tell me that I got something I know does not exist, and I've known does not exist for quite some time, as soon as they said the word virus, I just tuned them out. I let them blah, 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 blah. And be sure to call for your, no, I ain't kidding. Y'all just go away. That make-believe world out there. I said, lack of oxygen, that's what causes that. Yes. The eyes and the genitals are the two areas of the body where circulation tends to sometimes not be all that great. I talk more about that on the Patreon channel, you all. Jesus cleans everything. And so the matrix out there, doesn't want people to know that. Because when we understand that, it gets easier to unlearn a bunch of the worldly garbage. And then we understand better why we experience a lot of what we experience. And that's the other thing, you all. When God takes us through some previous parts of our spiritual journey, so we pick up what we accidentally left behind. So during that process, we are unlearning a lot of worldly garbage. So for example, all the time that I thought I had, that's right, all the time I thought that I had GERD because the world told me that, right? GERD. Just because the world told me that, I thought that for many years. And God said, no, you don't. He said, you don't have that. That's from the radio frequency heating the body on the inside and then altering the body's pH. Because I'm here to tell you that as soon as I started adding more alkaline fruits and veggies to my diet, it's a lot better balance. I'm not experiencing that. Plus, we're detoxing. And so I was like, oh, I see. But the world had me believing that so that I would do what? Exactly, continue to take whatever it is they prescribed, or I would get over the counter, right? Remember, the more pills you take, the less food you'll eat. And what is it that we get from food the most? Nutrition, right? Okay. So, when God takes us through some parts of our spiritual journey to pick things up, the example I have for you all is when he took me back through my master's program, a little bit on the spiritual journey, because he needed me to remember the time that I got up in the morning to get schoolwork out of the way before going to work. I don't have to utilize the same time frame, but the technique is what God needed me to pick back up and bring with me, because that's how I'm going to finish this educational journey that we're on in 2024. So we're in the middle. The first 3 chapters are the proposal that's been done and drafted. So it's been revised and sent back for another approval. Yeah. So that way we can move forward. And so God's getting us ready. He's preparing us. So he reminded me, he said, okay, but now right now, in February of 2024, we've still got other things going on with the ice packing and things, but wow, we are there, because that really is the final thing. I mean, there's not a whole lot more that I need to figure out self-care wise. That's it. I just have to put ice where it's needed, when it's needed, throughout the day. And so I can multitask with that. Because we figured out how to get 2 of those ice packs, and like to up the ante, and put it on both sides, the inside and the outside of the cab, wrap a towel around there and clamp that sucker. We good now, let's get to work. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so we're figuring out how to do this so that we can move forward. And he wanted me to remember that, okay, remember you got up pretty early and you would spend 3 to 4 hours and you would get your homework done in the morning, early morning hours. And then I had to be at the property to clean some units, usually around 10:30ish in the morning, because checkout there was 10 a.m. And so I would go, and then I would get, if there's 2 units or 3 units, what have you, or 1 even, but I would get units clean and ready for check-in for the next guest. And oftentimes I would get back to the house, say, usually by 3 p.m., and that's when I would go on my speed walk. And so he was reminding me of the, I guess you could say, kind of a routine that I had, but he said, I don't have to utilize that exact schedule. You see, because this ministry and work does have flexibility around when people book a consulting and coaching session. So when I wake up in the morning, if I see that I don't have any session booked, because there's a 3-hour window. So for example, if you want to book I think it's about let's just say it's no, it's not going to be that. Let's just say it's 11 a.m. Okay, because we've got some availability at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So that means that you have up till 7:59 a.m. Eastern time to book for the day. So if I wake up, let's say around 8 o'clock, and I don't see any 11 o'clock booking, okay, now I know about, we go around that. So that's how we operate with that one. But God said, we'll do the same thing. It's just when he starts to get us up a little bit earlier to get our schoolwork done, and then we do what we do with the ministry. And if I'm able to get a walk in early, fine. If not, it's okay to get it in later. So he's been reintroducing me to that. So that's what he does. He'll take us back through certain parts of our spiritual journey to help us figure out how we're going to get something done and how we're going to work it out. Because that technique worked. I got my homework turned in on time. I didn't miss work. And I was still at that time able to shift focus because psycho was in that environment. So he was a case study. At the time, I didn't think of it being spiritual, but obviously it was. And so after, I had the physical schoolwork, focused on that. And then once other things were done, and in between work and the walk and beyond, observing in the spiritual. So shifting physical to spiritual. I had already done it before, is what God was trying to tell me. He's like, I already showed you how to do that. Because I was thinking, I was like, all right, how are we going to shift from the physical to the spiritual and get this done? And so God just had me go and reminded me that he already showed me how to do that. I was like, oh, that's right. Exactly. So that's for whoever needs it. If you're wondering why you might be revisiting some things, and that's all it's for. Not to live there or to stay there. It's just God trying to remind you that there is an ability he already taught you, for example, or there's something else, another connection, something that we've forgotten about, we accidentally left it behind, that God said, no, I need you to bring that with you. Okay, He's going to do that. God is a wonderful God that way, right? Yes, say glory be to God. Let's put that in the comments below. Say glory be to God. Because I would not have thought of that had it not been for God bringing it to my remembrance, taking me back and reminding me, that particular part of my spiritual journey. And it's beautiful. And so, yes. Okay, right. It was 4 a.m. that I used to get up to do schoolwork. Yep. And 5 a.m. thing in the business community. Yep. Yeah, that's the other thing. Right. We would have to go to bed a little earlier the night before in order to make that happen. That's why God said I don't have to get up at 4 a.m. anymore. I do have sessions available later in the evenings too. So we have to be get a different kind of balance, but it was for the technique. But thank you for sharing that, because that's true. You do have to go to bed a little bit earlier the night before. Thank you. Yes, glory be to God. And so it's all part of that. When we find something that works for us, it's all part of that. When we find something that works for us, and we've got to, and that worked. So God will take us back and show us that, guess what? That technique worked, but we can switch it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. Similar concept to like how we're doing things now, to give y'all the inspiration to my to-do list, right? And there for a while we're still taking autonomic nervous system notes, absolutely. But now we're at a point where we've made a lot of connections, and so we know that, okay, basically it's just a little bit of self-care and maybe a little extra resting once in a while, and that's fine. But there was a couple of weeks, few weeks, what have you, where the first thing I would get done for the day was the live stream. And I said, okay, we got to get out of that. It's time to get out of that now. And I still got stuff done before and after, but not as much as I would like to. See, that's the thing. Chosen one, we are productive. We like being productive. And so God introduced me, as I shared with y'all yesterday, for those who missed it, God reintroduced me to multitasking once again. Because I was like, okay, because chosen one, we know how to do that. Okay, it's just sometimes we have to slow down a little bit, get back to basic, to get back on track. There's nothing wrong with that. And so just about everything on my list is done. There's only a couple of video promos, but I don't have to do those all in the same day. God told me that too. And so basically, after the live stream, I got a couple of videos, one for Patreon on the free side, and then one for YouTube next week. They're already edited. All I got to do is upload them and schedule them. Well, the Patreon, I'm not going to schedule that. It's going to post immediately, but later on. So just to give y'all an example, because God said, yeah, you already learned that a lot of this stuff that you're doing, because we've become familiar enough with the platforms. We're still learning, y'all. We're still learning some new things. And yes, you can see I got the Bible. We're getting to it. I'm going to get to it. But I wanted to cover some things that are very, very important in the spiritual awakening in God's reality, because He's going to have us do things, and it helps to know why sometimes. Even though I don't ask God why, He tells me anyway. Just like He had me do another batch of chili. And I was like, okay, put that on my spirit again. And all He said was the word circulation. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't ask why, but that I get it. Chili powder, good for that. Okay. So that's it. It's really simple when God does what He does. And so I need y'all to understand that, this is why we got to have God's patience. Oh my goodness. Because he's going to do these things every once in a while as he guides our steps and tells us about us. See, that's the other thing. When God awakens us to the narcissism and all of this around us, and we're like, okay, and then we learn that God did not have us go through certain things, go acquire degrees, what have you. He didn't have us get those things for no reason. So we start looking into, okay, well then what's the takeaway here? What are we, whoever needs this tip, a reminder for those who have not heard this, that's how we did it. How did consulting for heightened awareness come about? Right? Okay, well, I had to get some additional trauma training. So I did that first. All right, and I saved my notes, all of it. Because the prerequisite to enroll in that, where I enrolled, is that you have to be in some form of, let's just say, social work, psychology. You have to have a degree in something like that, okay? Because they said my criminal justice bachelor did not qualify me, nor did my forensic toxicology master's. But the current forensic psychology did qualify me to take that training with them. Just to give you all perspective. So I can simplify this stuff and bring it to you all. Even from my educational stuff, simplify it for you all. And in fact, that's a little bit of what we do. A lot of what we do in the course, how the trauma bond is formed. That's where the forensic toxicology knowledge comes in as well. Not just for combating radio frequency poisoning, but also for how the trauma bond is formed. The manipulation of the brain chemistry and why and how it's just like a drug addiction. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. That's what I did. I said, okay, so what in these degrees is God needing me? Well, the forensic toxicology one played a major role in this spiritual battle for the mind. It is what it is. He said I got criminal justice to hone my analytical skill. He said I'm getting the current one because of these psychological aspects of it. Okay? So it's a spiritual battle for the mind. Right? All right, but there's worldly side to things. However, worldly labels no longer resonate. Now, drug use disorders, yes, those do exist, obviously. Okay, so it's all about that discernment. When you have that spiritual discernment, you can tell the difference. And it's unfortunate, but a lot of people get stuck in that world label for narcissist when it's a spiritual disorder. Hands down. Because, come on, let's face it. That's how I started to go, wait a minute. You mean to tell me? Because I thought that at first. I went through that season too. NPD and all of that. And so I pray that others get out of that season. Our fellow chosen ones, we do. Because we realize that, hold up a second. Because all of those criteria, right? All of that. And then you read through some more of that purple book and you're like, hold on a second. Why is there so much overlap? Well, that's confusing. Okay. Then I said, Heavenly Father, does that mean that everyone out here is a narcissist? I don't get this. I just can't be right. And that's when he started to reveal that narcissism was a spiritual disorder. He led me to Romans chapter 1. All right. And so where did God tell us about us? Right. Yes, chosen one. See, that's the thing. We don't like that feeling of sloth and not getting things done. That's right. Not getting much done. We don't like it. Chosen one. That's right. But we learned that we can slow down a little bit. We don't have to keep go. Although we like being that way, we realize we don't have to be. That's the thing. Right. Exactly. if we had some really great habits back then through different seasons of our spiritual journey, God does, right, that we've forgotten, and to go, that can still be useful today, absolutely. Yes, I was talking about that loyalty DSM, yeah, which is in my trunk. Hopefully I can sell it. Okay, yeah, I don't need asking twice for chili. Nope. When God put chili on my spirit, I'm like, okay, it is what it is. We do not, we don't question God. Because I was on my power walk, and out of the blue, he just said chili. Because it wasn't chilly outside. All right, there you go. That's how God works. Sometimes he's that. You've heard, well, for those who haven't heard, that God sometimes is that. He's that small, still voice in the background. Well, what runs in the background? Our subconscious, right? Okay. Where did God tell us about it? In Galatians chapter 4. That's just one of many places. Because it really helps to understand. So yes, I guess we're going to have somewhat of a little Bible study, which that's fine. We're always studying the Bible. And so for those who don't make our Saturday Bible studies, you're going to get Bible study at Consulting for Heightened Awareness frequently. And just so you all know, okay, for those of you who may not be ready for, Bible verses during consulting and coaching session, I'll know. You'll let me know. Usually, when a new survivor books, it's going to take a few sessions before they're ready. All right, for a bunch of God connection to what they experience. So we understand that. I don't come at you all in the very first session. I don't come at you like that. I wait on you to make the request. I wait on you to let me know. I let you ask the question. Now unless we have spoke prior to booking a session, I will ask a few questions about, what brings you to Consulting for Heightened Awareness, right? That's right. And then how old are you? Gives me an idea where you're at on the journey. And then also if you're comfortable self-reflecting. Now, I understand that some Jezebels have gotten good at saying yes, but it doesn't take long now. That's why God had me do that Jezebel case study, because there were some things he needed me to see that I was sensing, but it wasn't real strong because it was virtual. So he had me go in person and get the confirmation. That way now. Okay, lesson. All about lessons. So just know that. All right. I'm not gonna bombard you with Bible verses unless you request it on the very first one. You're ready. Okay, cool. You have a question. Where is God talking about this particular aspect of narcissism? Okay, so yeah. And we will, if I don't have the answer right away, we'll find it together. But in Galatians chapter 4, God really is telling us, that Jesus went through these things. So starting in verse 1, says, now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, deferreth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all. Think about this. As long as he is a child, deferreth nothing from a servant. Think about toddlers in adult bodies. Okay. But we talk about Jesus. When Jesus was a child, he deferred nothing, right? He didn't defer from a servant, though he be Lord of all. Because Jesus is Lord of all. So we're here, he's really telling us about us, because back in Galatians 2 verse 20, what does he say? That's right. when we're saved, it's no longer us who walk, but Christ who walks through us. I'm paraphrasing, but it's true. Because it's his spirit walking through us. This is why we get those creepy side-eyed stares and evil eyes. This is why, chosen one, we've gotten those creepy looks and other things from the evildoers out here. Because it's the light, the anointing that we didn't know about yet. Okay, because as a child, we were also under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. Right? In verse 2, but is, okay, though Jesus, Lord of all, also, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. And we learned earlier, okay? All right, we learned that it's in the book of Luke that Jesus, his time, God's appointed time for Jesus was at 12, not 30, as the world would have you learn. It's right there in the book of Luke. It tells us that Jesus was 12 because his parents came looking for him. And so he turned and asked his parents, he said, why seekest thou? Don't you know I'm to be all about my heavenly Father's business? Paraphrasing again, but you know what I'm talking about. And so they had no idea. But Jesus knew at age 12 when he became a man and put away the thing. All right. So he was no longer under tutors and governors at that time. So just like when God awakened us, get us out of the matrix, they're no longer under tutors and governors. Okay. Now, I may be teaching y'all, yes. Okay. And that's fine. We're in God's reality together. The point, we're not in a bunch of bondage. Remember, Galatians chapter 4 about that, how we were in a lot of bondage to this world, trauma bondage to the world. But see, we break that trauma bond to the world in God's reality. We pull down those strongholds and we realize we get to choose. Okay, we do. We get to choose what bondage we will allow and won't allow. Now, mind you, there are a few things, okay, that we may not be able to get out from under because it's the law of the land. It is what it is. Okay? Remember, narcissism, it's all around us. And so, in verse 3, he tells us about us. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of this world. Of the world, excuse me. Okay? You children, right, children are highly dependent on caregivers, right? Toddlers and adult body are highly dependent on caregivers. Chosen one are not. Okay, so we are not in bondage under the elements of this world. When God awakens us, we break down those trauma bonds, pull down those strongholds. And then in verse 4, beautiful. But when the fullness of the time would come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, meaning God's law. Talking about Jesus. Okay? And so now that we know it's no longer us who walk, but Christ who walks through us, he's telling us about us. He's telling us about the Christ walking through us. Because a woman gave birth to us. And so There you go. And the reason being for Christ walking through us is to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. In other words, we're going to help Jesus say. And because ye are sons, God hath sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. See, God looking at that heart. Always looking at that heart. And then, wherefore, thou art no more a servant, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. Right there. That's who chosen ones are. We're no more a servant, meaning to the world. We're still serving, because, right. Because there is no greater thing than the servant. But we're talking about the servant for God. Okay, we're no more a servant, but a son. No more just that servant of the world. No, we're not men pleasers anymore, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. So we are God's children. And when we talk about heirs, we talk about, you know how that spell, right? Okay. Okay. H-E-I-R. Meaning we inherit the kingdom of God. Remember, let's see, it's Ephesians. Yeah. Ephesians. Chapter 1, I do believe, is where he talks a lot about that. Yeah. Yep, he talks a lot about our inheritances in Ephesians chapter 1. For those of you who would like that, oh my goodness. I talked about this before, but I kept the note because it's a great talking point. All right? Because in Ephesians 1, verses 3 through 5, he's talking about the spiritual blessing. Those are inheritances. Okay. And then in verse 7, chapter 1, verse 7, talks about Jesus. Yeah, redemption. Jesus dropped the charges, right, against our sin. And then more about our inheritance in verse 11. And how it is sealed with the Holy Spirit of promise in verse 13. It goes on. So we'll cover that again. Absolutely, we'll get to that again because it's beautiful. All the things that God has for us that we inherit. It's not just financially, but in a lot of different ways. That's right. Yep, there is always something that we can be getting on with. That's right. Yep. Jesus is very straight talking. Absolutely. So that's why I need y'all to remember that Jesus is not a pushover. He never was. He's a straight talker. Not sugarcoating nothing. Okay? Yeah, that's why we don't. Listen, chosen one. How many times did we get looked at funny because we call things out as they are? Some would call it brutal honesty, but it's not brutal at all. Only the narcissists think it's brutal because we know how to be honest and tell the truth. Never forget, those who tell the truth are their enemy. Right. H-E-I-R-S, not H. Funny. H-A-I-R-S. Yeah, not that one. We're talking about heirs of God. Sons and daughters. That's right. Yep, we're seen as boat rockers or rocking the boat. Or as I said in one of the podcast episodes, upsetting the apple cart. Yeah, we're seen as chosen one, when we come out with those truths like that, we're seen as upsetting the apple cart, rocking the boat. That's another one. Exactly. And they don't like that because they don't understand it. And not only that, but God's spiritual truth, God's truth triumphs everything in this world. The devil knows that. That's why the devil cannot, to our face, when we expose the truth, for example, like radio frequency poisoning and how it's the cause for a lot of things. The devil knows that's the truth. So it's like the narcissist can't come directly to my face and argue with that. They can't. They're not allowed. God doesn't allow that. Now, they might try to smear to others and try to discredit that. That's fine. Because those who it's meant to resonate with, it will. Like our fellow warrior Chris. And others who have, over the years, have done that, chasing the tail with what's going on? Why are we experiencing this? Why are we feeling this way? And we would go to several different places and nobody could give us an answer. And each time they would take a sample of blood, leaving us a bit more anemic. So now we understand why. The demon spirit, if any of them had the demon spirit, they knew, but the human host does not. So when I came across that radio frequency sickness article, and God led me back to it, as we were learning more about RF manipulation and things, I said, okay, there's more to it than this. There's a whole lot more. And there sure is. And so that answers questions for many of us as to why. And so we no longer find ourselves chasing our tails. We have the answer because we now have the underlying cause for why we're feeling drained all the time. Aside from the narcissist draining our energy. I'm talking about feeling sluggish. You know, and right, not realizing that our body internal temperature was too high. We wouldn't know that because we're taking in excessive salt. And so all of those things. And so we would be experiencing this or that. We would get tricked into thinking that we were catching this or that. Go to the store and buy something that would actually prolong the discomfort rather than, it's not designed to treat the underlying cause. Yes, more about all of that on the Patreon channel. Because it's very important to understand that we are combating that for healthier living. Because when I got on the blood type diet the first time, God reminded me, that's when major clarity started to occur. And I mean major. Chris can attest to that. That when you start eating healthier and start reducing that sodium intake, the clearer and clearer and clearer the mind becomes. That heightened awareness. It levels up. You get clearer minded so you can focus better. Oh, yeah. Yep. Whack and blue on the arms from looking for a vein. They love to do that, don't they? Spiritual attacks. Oh, gosh, I know. It's just, it takes a while, but we get better at it. We get better at fighting the spiritual battle. It only gets better. And yes, there you go. Just like I say in my second book. Yes, my second book, which is How Narcissism is Bred. Because I talk about how the first reality, remember, we're groomed since birth to tolerate the abuse. later in life by the autonomic nervous system getting traumatized first, trauma bonding us to the world around age 3. That's when we start to develop a little bit of an awareness. And then we're taught by the world, everybody's good. Human beings are all good, right? 2 rose-colored lenses, man. Yeah. And so we're taught that. Big fat lie, right? And so then somewhere for many of us in our adolescent, for many of us in our adolescent years, we enter the perception management reality where we lose one of those rose lenses because a little loss of innocence there, peer pressure, what have you. It doesn't matter what the reason, it happened. And so we're like, okay, remember, Jesus dropped the charges. So we now are like, okay, we can start to see some of the bad and the good, right? Now remember, going into young adulthood and things like that, we still don't know, but we're in the perception management reality the longest. And that is where toddler and adult body get stuck. Chosen one, when God awakens us at his appointed time, gets us out of that, and he takes off all rose tinted lenses. That's it. And so when you reduce your sodium intake, start eating healthier, getting more active, you gain more clarity, that heightened awareness. You're able to catch things that God is revealing. And then you're able to go, okay, so we find what worked for us and keep going forward with it. So, like Chris said, it really is. When you start to do this, it takes time, but the clarity comes relatively quick. Pretty much the moment you start lowering that sodium through the detoxing, because it's the excess salt and sugars that creates that mucus delirium feeling. That's what it is. You've got too much mucus up there. It needs to get out. But that's what the radio frequency needs for houses, for metal molecules. So once you're able to start getting those out, then you're able to start thinking more clearly. You're able to make less impulsive decisions. You are able to go, hold on a second. For example, to help y'all put it in perspective. Okay, when I found a spot that needed some ice packing, then I found another one. Well, God showed this stuff to me. Although there are areas where the bruising number gone, it's just God's like, we're going to up the ante a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, I've only got 5 of the, they only last for about 15 minutes, but I've only got 5 of those. Because, like, we figured out how to use 2, right? Okay. But early on, when I was hopping back and forth between hotel, I got one of those, you know, the blue with the cap that you put ice in, one of those ice pouches. Right? I got one of those and a little cooler. I had to have a cooler because I had things in the fridge that had to go back. There you go. I was like, okay. And so, yeah, it was the night before last. Yeah, it was, yeah, no, it was yesterday. Wow. A lot occurs in 24 hours. Anyhow, so anyway, I found, God showed me where to put that stuff. And so yesterday evening, I was like, okay, you know, because how we used to think, right? And in that matrix, whenever we found something that was like, oh, cool, we got to do more of that. Hold on a second, though. Because of the clarity, God told me, he's like, okay, well, he saw me get the cooler down from the cupboard and go in and get that blue pouch and I put it over here, and I was thinking, well, how are we going to do that? Because I can use that on certain places when those need to go back in the freezer, because it takes about an hour for them to get cold enough again to use. And so I was in my mind going, how am I going to do this? Because am I going to get a bag of ice? I don't have enough room in the freezer right now for ice trays. I'm going back and forth. And so today God told me, it's like, just chill. Just chill on that. Because I was finding something working. And so I got excited. Of course you get excited, you want to do more of it. But because of the clarity, God says sleep on it. He said, just put it right there and sleep on it. Because do I want to be going out every day and getting a bag of ice? Not necessarily. And then would one bag of ice give me a couple of days of ice for that thing? I don't know. So I had to think. But God had me stop. See, we're able to do that now. Whereas if we still had a bunch of that delirium going on, right? I would have grabbed my keys, got in that car, went, got a bag of ice, come back in, and I would have done it already. That's acting on impulse. Because God revealed to me today, we may not even have to use that. He said, we may not even need that. He said, so just leave it there in case, as a reminder, if need be. Because so far throughout today, I haven't needed it. So God just wanted me to go, okay. But we can do that because of clarity. So I just want to give you all that for an example. Yes. Oh, I know. That's the other thing. Oh, so true. So true. How many years have we been fed that the salty and sugary foods? Oh, great point. Great point. For a long time. And now we know why. Yeah, now we know why. And so we learn to be streetwise. Keep our wits. There you go. And not be too trusting of anyone, including family members. In other words, we no longer have our hearts on our sleeves. Can't. God tells us, yeah, we cannot keep casting pearls before swine. And your body does rebound daily as the salt decreases. Exactly right. Exactly right. That's the other thing. So thank you. That's God speaking through you to remind me of that. Instead of going out and getting that bag of ice and trying to do too much. Remember, because not having enough and having too much, can cause the body to stay out of balance. So you want to, and they can have the same negative effects. So it's like, okay, hold on a second. We need to think about this. Although I will tell you, for the body's internal pH level to be 100% accurate, because of the radio frequency all around us, that's a challenge. But we can alleviate, mitigate, if you will, the acidic things going on in there by eating alkaline foods like prunes, purple grapes, green leafy veggies, things like that, including spinach, romaine lettuce, any leafy green, really, going to be alkaline. So we want to keep that in mind too. And here's another tip for the alkaline. Let me show you. You're going to be surprised. But this is another one. Because, right, and it has, let me share. It has very little fat, no sodium, no sugars, 1 gram of protein. I'm surprised. Okay, and it's got 10 milligrams of calcium. It's got 1.3 milligrams of iron. and 220 milligrams of potassium. And it said that per serving. And it says 1 tablespoon is what it recommends as 1 serving size. So you put a tablespoon of this stuff in your fruit smoothie protein drink, you're adding more potassium and it becomes alkaline. This is alkaline. So there you go, cocoa, but no sugars. Make sure, that's why I was reading you all the ingredients here. Like no sugars, no salts, 0.5 grams of fat. That's not bad at all, but it's got no saturated and no trans fat, no cholesterol. Highly beneficial for alkaline. That will help with the alkaline. And that's really all you need. And so that's what I did when I had my protein thing this morning. But what I did is I just used a bottle of water and I put a couple of scoops of the vanilla protein powder. And then I know it had to be at least a tablespoon of this. And I shook it up and took it with me on just a regular walk. Get that alkaline in there with the protein and water. So you can do that too for whoever needs that tip. It doesn't always have to be a protein fruit smoothie. You see? Just switch it up a little bit. And so, because our muscles need the protein, potassium, water, oxygen. Absolutely. So don't forget that. It's all very important. And yep, you're welcome. Balance. God is a God of balance. Absolutely. Well, I don't think it would hurt if you were going to drink one of those protein thingies or just have a little bit of this with something that it pairs with at bedtime. I think either or, because it's basically just keeping your internal environment a little bit more alkaline. Now, don't overdo it. Don't do too much. Just a little at a time. You'll know. You'll be able to tell, because like I shared with you before, or in the Academy forum, the community, you all at the Academy, yeah, we're very active. I might forget to log in on a day here or there, but we do our best to get up there every single day and log in and check in with y'all. Absolutely. So, yeah, because you don't want to do too much. That's something that we're learning in God's reality real quick, is that we don't want to do too much too fast. So if I had that today, so if I'm fine for the rest of the day, I may not need the prune. That's my point. Is that right? Because normally I would have 5 individually wrapped prunes sitting there waiting. But since we did the dose of this, we're just going 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time throughout the day, just being mindful, checking in with ourselves. Because what will happen is, as you are detoxing, there will be some moments where, because of the internal heat, all right, and the salt that's still needing to get out and the toxin, you might have a little bit of a stomach discomfort that could trick you into thinking that you're getting heartburn when you're not. It's just go and get, like I said, you get a handful of prunes. I do 5 small little prunes, and that takes care of it right there. Now, if it is worse and you do need to take something, absolutely, okay? Because even I still have the store brand Prevacid on hand, okay? Because during the detox, all right, so I'm just giving y'all these tips that you can try that first. And if it doesn't resolve it, well, okay, then your acid is a bit higher than it should, right? Because it should take no more than 5 prunes. If it's acting up just a little bit, And then also a tablespoon of this cocoa. It should take no more than that to calm it back down, meaning get a little bit of a better balance with the pH on the inside. So there you go. And as we have more tips, I will bring them to y'all. Absolutely. Because I'm not going to something that I don't know if it works or not. No. I'm only going to give you the tip that I know works. Okay? Because I've done it. I've experienced it. I'm like, okay. Because we all share our biological chemistry. And radio frequency has the same effects on everybody. So it's like, okay. And so we just want to be mindful of that. And don't get alarmed if you start to experience it. And don't get tricked because you just got done eating, let's say, a half hour before that. And you start to feel that. Don't get tricked into thinking that you're hungry again either. Oh, I got to do that too. Okay? You're not alone. I have to do that too. God told me, he said, okay, I need you to remember what are your actual portions. Because when we go through the fluctuation, sometimes it can be difficult to tell whether we're full or not. Because our body's changing on the inside for the better. So we're going to go through those moments. So God had me remember, yeah, he's like, I need you to look at your portions. I need you to pay attention. Because you know visually, for example, a turkey burger, just one burger with some lettuce, tomato, onion, and a little bit of mustard and mayo on a lettuce wrap, okay? One burger, that's plenty in one sitting for me. And I know this. So I eat that, and even if I think I'm still hungry, I tell myself no. Because you know that's all you need. Give yourself a couple hours, and if you want a snack, fine. We'll get some raisins or something maybe, like whatever. But I tell myself so. We have to be disciplinary with ourselves also during the process, okay? So be mindful of that as well because you don't want to get tricked into overeating because that can lead to issues that this won't help. And we don't want to see y'all do that. So there's that other little heads up. Okay, for anyone who needs that one. Alrighty. Well, yeah. I have heard of I've heard of Ovaltine, but I don't, we get that here as far as I know, but I've never had it. And prunes, yes. Digestion is adjusting. Thank you. That's another thing that goes along with the detox process. Absolutely. Has to, in steps, because your internal body heat's lowering and you're fluctuating, you're right, as you're eating healthier, decreasing that salt and things like that. And also your palate will adjust as well. It will. And prunes, good for keeping, yeah, it's good for keeping you regular in the morning. Absolutely. And that is necessary for the detoxing. All right? I mean, our body eliminates toxins several ways. It helps get rid of excessive heat on the inside. Speaking. And then, of course, belching. Yeah, that gets rid of the heat. And then, of course, the other one. And then through our elimination system. Okay? Yep. And then also through sweat. Especially excessive salt gets out through sweat. So there's many ways our body was designed by God to get rid of what it doesn't want or need naturally. And so let me go ahead and take a peek here where we're at. Let me come on over here. Make sure, because sometimes the questions and comments come in and I don't always get them there. Okay, yep, we are caught up on that. Absolutely. And so yeah, this is, and more. We talked about the creepy behaviors of the narcissist. And so now we're talking a little bit more for those of us who are on the detoxing from radio frequency poisoning journey. As you'll learn in the course, How to Detox from Trauma Nutrition course at CHA Academy, one of the chapters, we talk about the importance of staying hydrated. Now, and as I share there too, there may be moments where, because your body salt level is dropping some, because it's too high to start with, when you start the detoxing, and remember, a little at a time. Don't try to cut it in half that first day. You'll throw your body in the shock. Don't do that. A little bit at a time each day, okay? And so you might take a sip of water, and you might have that like a full feeling of water, like a waterlogged feeling. That's okay, because that's just because the salt's holding the water. And so you just give it time to work its way through, to get out. So it can be a little difficult to get liquid in. But that just lets you know, okay, well, then you're good for now, because if you're getting that waterlogged feeling, then that says you've got a good bit of liquid still there. So maybe go walk for a little bit. I don't know, go sit in a sauna if you can handle it. Sweat it out. But it goes away over time as your body does what it's got to do. Never forget, the biological body, that's God. It knows what to do. Yes, okay. A few weeks ago, where the body heat felt like a summer's day, even though it was, okay, I know. I'm there with you. I'm there with you. So, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen. Because now you're going to become aware that your body is like on fire. I mean, not literally, okay, y'all, that's metaphorically, but you are going to feel that, like, whoa, that's really hot there. Like the heat index is really hot there. Like, oh. See, before we start detoxing, we don't know that. We're not aware of it yet. Once we start detoxing and decreasing that salt, that's why God had me get a bathrobe. So like there's one morning, just to help y'all put it in perspective, so I know what you're talking about. Even though it was freezing cold outside, your body heat index felt like a summer day. Absolutely. Because there's been cooler days here, and I'm out there walking in my shorts and tank top still. Other people all bundled up in jackets. That's not like me. And then be sleeping with the AC at 65, that is not me. Yeah, it's very unusual for this girl. But it is what it is. And so, one morning I'll feel that, and I'll put the bathrobe on and for a little bit. Then maybe 15 minutes later, I take it off. How we know we're making progress is when I leave that thing on 65 in the morning, get my tea, get moving around, and I'm able to keep that bathrobe on comfortably for an hour to an hour and a half, which we have done. That's progress. Because I know me. So that's to help anybody else too who may be experiencing that. Because your body feels that way, and you want to go outside in that cool air, and you want to lift up that shirt, and you want to, been there. Yep, been there. That was my first detox round too. Oh, I'll never forget that. I was like, man. So that's why I'm saying that's what radio frequency does. It heats the body from inside out. Not supposed to do that. God's like, yeah. So yes, I totally get it. Even though it was. Yeah. Totally relatable. And it's nothing to be afraid of because you're aware of it. right? You know that you're the one who is contributing to the detox, and so that's naturally going to happen. You'll start to actually notice that your body's heat index has been pretty high the majority of your life. We just didn't know it. That's the thing. So now we become aware of that. We're like, oh, and that contributes to a lot of the discomfort that we experience. That is what that internal heat contributes to, the feeling of being heavy when we're not. It also leads to that feeling sluggish all the time, that internal heat. And it also interferes with proper circulation. That internal heat, right? Internal heat also causes the metal molecule to expand. And where there's a gas bubble, pressure, ow, right? So as the heat index starts to lessen, right, and you start to feel, it feels like, if the vibration feels like a belch, right, in certain places, you'll feel a little, that's an air pocket finally making its way out. Because the more air pocket that make the way out, the less intense any pain will be. And then over time, as you continue to cool down, the body's internal temperature gets where it needs to be, and no more expanding, but they shrink, get into circulation, and get out of the body once and for all. That's the order of things. But there had to be an air pocket, aka gas bubble, somewhere. And then that. Yep. Radio frequency, beep. Well, you eat, breathe it in, it finds one of them houses to get itself inside and lay next to, on top of, or what have you, that air pocket. So when it expands, because God revealed to me that when that metal toxin expands by itself and there's no gas bubble, the intensity of the pain is very low. It's a dull ache. There's a difference. Yep. I was like, oh, that makes sense, because I'm paying attention when one breaks away in a particular area. I'm paying attention. So when an air pocket goes away, and I'm like, okay, and then the ping, if you will, what I call it, because it's very brief. Right, whenever it gets hot, it'll ping, but in other words, when the air pocket was there, it was like, it would scream for a second. And I'm like, okay, I see where you're at. But as I continue to move and ice pack it, put the ice in places, the air pocket go. And so once the air pocket's gone, that metal molecule, even when it expands, it don't have anything to put pressure on it to make it appear as though it's worse than it really is. So that's just, you're going to learn more about this, y'all. I've got some things coming. You're going to learn more about this. And it's so simple. It is so simple. Even though God made our biological bodies very strategic to get rid of what it doesn't want or need, it's also very simple how that process works with radio frequency poisoning and how it causes the things that it causes to occur that trick us previously, and then continues to trick a lot of people into thinking that there's something wrong with them. There isn't. So there you go. It was a novelty because you didn't need to turn the heat on. Turning negatives into positives. I like it. There you go. There you go. Yeah, I like it. That's how you turn negatives into positives. Say, hey, I'll go through this season with a little bit of a body with a higher heat index, I don't have to turn on the heat, even though it's cold outside. There you go. Save on that electric bill. This is what we do, chosen ones. We look at the bright side of things. There you go. All right, you all. So we are close to the hour-and-a-half mark. I'm glad that we got to finish off with that. Negative into a positive. There you go. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yes, exactly. Even though we don't have a scarcity mindset in God's reality, but we get it. Yes, it's all about how we look at things. It's all about our perception. How we look at the stuff. More positively. Because we know we're going through a process for the better, right? We know we're going through a process for improvement, for better health, healthier living. All right, everyone? So there you go. That's it for today. I am Michelle Dickey, your host for CHA's Truth Seeker podcast, streaming on the YouTube channel, Narcissism and Cognitive Dissonance, where trauma healing and spiritual growth are front and center while combating radio frequency poisoning for healthier living. Trauma healing and spiritual growth occur with God's wisdom, basic scientific facts, tried and true techniques, and more here and at CHACademyBTBW.com. The link to the Academy is listed below. Some of y'all may need to copy and paste the link to view what CHACademyBTBW.com offers to help you level up your trauma healing and spiritual growth. Yes. I'll get to you on that. Sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you for watching, listening, and for your support. Until next time, let's show some gratitude to the Heavenly Father, and you keep being you. In Jesus' name, amen.